Testing. Okay, cool. This should be good. This will update momentarily. Shoot, can you pull it up on your phone? Hello. We should be live, but I just want to make sure because that has not updated yet. If you go to twitch.tv/schoolbussoy, TV. I'll check over on my. Yes, we're good. All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, sorry I've not streamed in a while. Stuff going on. Welcome, Michael. Michael, if you want to say hi, say a few words about yourself and who you are.
Yeah, Michael, friend of Oliver's. We actually met at the Philosophy Club at UT Dallas. And yeah, I'm big into neuroscience, philosophy. Those are my interests, things like that. And we're just here, I guess, to have a conversation about pantheism and just a dialogue. And yeah, whatnot.
Yeah, we took a walk in the park earlier and talked about pantheism, and it was good. Talked about what did we talk about? We talked about Islam. We talked about
Stream
Christianity.
elements.
We talked about
Stream
evangelizing. We
elements
talked
bot
about
running robot face.
Robert DeSantis. We talked about a lot.
Yeah.
So that's good. So he's never played Fortnite before, right? Have you ever?
No, I never have.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's something. So without further ado, let's, I suppose, get started on our first solo game. Do you want to try the first one?
Sure.
Okay, alrighty. So I guess that leaves me to begin the discussion of pantheism, doesn't it? Man, okay. So I think because this was his idea, so I'm gonna push it back to him.
Sure.
So what was something that drew you to pantheism specifically as something that you wanted to talk about today? Why that over anything else?
I think for me, when it comes to like spirituality or religion, the one that makes the most sense to me, if like practically, is pantheism.
And then why is that?
I would say that because uh, I can't prove there's a God that we can't see. I can't prove there's a type of invisible God that is some sort of creator we should believe in.
Right.
But I can trust in what I see, and I can trust in what I experience in like things like nature and human life, and plants and living things, and whatnot. And so I can practically see that and believe in that. And if there is some sort of creation of life or nature, Earth, the universe, then I would think that it makes sense that can be discovered in nature.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there something that draws you to
Stream
pantheism
elements.
specifically over? Oh, we have
School
a
bus
some
SOY
kind of
is now
interaction.
live. Streaming
I don't know what
Fortnite.
that was.
Bus Fortnite
that's
with
okay.
Friends
I think a
Philosophy
mention,
Friday.
maybe? Or a follow?
Pantheism.
I don't know. But
God,
it's watched me,
gods,
so that's
Spinoza, and more.
cool.
Foot Michael J.
Okay, so is there something in particular that makes you feel like it's more real or more likely or more? Because to me it sounds like it's all, I don't know, all theism feels just as justifiable because faith is faith, right? It's
Sure. Okay.
So in talking to you earlier, you mentioned something about not faith, something that about how some aspects of this might not require faith, and I was kind of curious because I don't think I got quite a good answer from you, and I'm kind of curious what you think about that.
Yeah, actually, I don't think that pantheism, or this idea, at least of what I have of it, requires it.
So okay,
I think it can just be simply in what you see, and like just from the sense, like information you get from the senses itself. So
okay,
I think it requires like a little faith. Also, mistake.
okay. Here, let me take this from you so that we get somewhere here. Because right now we're walking, and there's nothing wrong with walking. Sometimes life is a journey of walking. Um, okay, so then I think my question is let's back up a little bit and let's ask ourselves, so what is God, right? So, because pantheism is the idea that everything is God, or that there are gods in everything, and so that sort of thing. And so the question then becomes, if it doesn't require faith to you, the question then becomes, what is God? What does that even mean? What does it even mean that everything is God?
Yeah, I mean I don't know. I think the way we define God today, it's a concept.
Sure. Yeah.
Whether there's a little creator entity that we could see or be a part of in the afterlife, I can't really speak on that. If there's like a literal type of God. But yeah, that's really subjective. Like, I guess what is God? Um, I guess God could be some sort of creator entity or creator spirit,
Sure.
whatever that could be. And so, like, humans, like, we have the ability to create life, and we can plant trees and create, and we can do all sorts of things to manipulate life and all that. So, do we have creative spirit in us? I guess that could be a sort of God, or yeah, um, yeah. I think it could be a loser subject, whether there's a literal God or not, as like in as God in the Bible or Islam, or Abrahamic religion, or Hindu God, or that is some sort of creator. I wouldn't be able to know.
I'm sorry, I was not able to respond. I died.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to start the game, and then I'm going to hand it to you.
Okay.
Okay, so what do you think draws you to, or would draw someone to one particular thing, one particular choice of God over another?
Yeah.
Because pantheism is not that, right? Pantheism is not something people generally. So let me answer the question first. I think.
Yeah.
Generally, I feel like people are attracted to one particular religion not for the same types of reasons that they might be attracted towards one particular field of neuroscience or psychology or one particular perspective in those areas, which would be some sort of evidence gained in young adulthood or later adulthood, but rather it's sort of a cultural upbringing type deal, right? Like,
yeah.
you grow up Christian because your family was Christian, because the people around you were Christian. You grow up, Islamic because you went to mosque as a child, right? So, is there something that you think might draw people to that outside of those reasons, and how does pantheism fit with that?
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I'm not sure if in pantheism there's any sort of speak on the supernatural or something really being supernaturally great.
Okay.
So I think if some people have some sort of experience that that they claim must be some sort of out of ordinary, supernatural, unexplainable thing, they would be more attracted, maybe, or inclined to attend something like a church service or find a community around that can explain maybe a miracle that they claim that or something of that nature.
Okay.
Islam, I think,
Let me grab that.
yeah, I think from my experience of people, Muslims I know, I'd say they tend to try to be more logical about this. Than they do believe in miracles, but I, I always feel like I've always been taught against blind faith whenever I speak to Muslims. But when I speak to Christians, I'm not saying every Christian, but some Christians I meet, they are more inclined to believe in something like blind faith or taking a leap of faith.
Okay, so where do you think that the origin of belief comes from in Islam then? Perhaps,
I think
maybe not as a generalization, but as a minor generalization.
yeah, I would say that in the Quran itself, the Quran itself is supposed to be a perfect book without error, and in its revelation itself to Muhammad, is supposed to be a miracle in itself, and they say the Quran is proof of in itself that there is existence of God. Or I haven't read enough of the Quran, honestly, to really speak deeply on that. But they say that Muslims I know, they say that the problem with the Bible, even though they believe in some of the Gospels, they believe that it has been corrupted and changed over time. They say that a lot of the like Trinitarian or the Holy Spirit, the God is three aspect, could have been just invented by Paul, because he claimed to have a personal experience with Jesus, and whether that's credible or not, there's some doubt there to them.
Okay, so I think when I'm talking about not requiring faith, I think I'm talking about objectivity. Is there something objective in Islam that doesn't exist in Christianity or other religions?
Not from my experience. I think the claims that I've heard is that yeah, it's in the Quran itself. It's in the study of the Quran itself.
What is the discovery?
Yeah, I say that the Quran itself is a book without error, and that it being revealed in itself is a proof.
Interesting. Okay, so how does that differ from Christianity? Because I think
Yeah,
to me it sounds almost like a semantic distinction, right? Like
yeah,
there is nothing to me from what it sounds like that makes that any different than blind faith. You're saying it's not blind faith, but it sounds a bit like blind faith.
yeah. It does. Yeah, I'm not sure about different Muslims you may ask and what their opinion on that would be. I know some Muslims that I have heard they do say that the Quran itself is a book without error and is a miracle in itself.
Well, so but I think that's
But
kind of what the Bible is supposed to be too, right? I mean,
it's supposed to be that. You know,
it is
Christians
a
claim,
human written book,
yeah,
according to Christians, but I,
yeah. They say it's a book without error. I mean, they say it's the word of God, and that it is every verse in the Bible. It has the breath of God in it, or it's God
sure,
breathed.
sure,
And so that, in essence, is really like saying the same thing. But in Islam, in Muslims, they say that the Bible has been corrupted, and it said even every maybe Buddha or maybe Krishna or these other type of, I guess, prophetic or spiritual figures, they all could have been messengers of God in some form or fashion, but at some level, every religion has been corrupted except for Islam, and this is the final revelation. That is my understanding.
Okay, so the interest in Islam, I get that. So where does pantheism fit into this, and why the focus on Islam specifically
Yeah,
over
that's
others?
actually a great question. In Islam, the Muslims, a lot of them claim that there are scientific revelations.
thought it was dead. I don't know why I thought it was dead. Probably because it was put down. Testing, testing. Are we back? Yeah. I don't know how long we were talking at nothing. We had a lot of great conversation about Spinoza. Okay, so let's back up a little bit because we know that we've been unheard for a little while. So let's back up and let's reintroduce Spinoza, and let's mention. So who's Spinoza? Now we've run through a rehearsal. Tell us, why should we care about Spinoza? Who is Spinoza? We're talking about pantheism. I don't know. I really have no idea how long the audio's been cut out. Probably only for a few minutes because I've been kind of vaguely looking at that light.
Yeah, why should we care about Spinoza?
Yeah,
I think,
who is he? What's the deal?
I think he's one of the guys that brought pantheism to the mainstream.
Okay.
And this idea, like you're saying, that God is the universe, or the universe
Tomato
is
Hero
God, that
999.
in nature there is divine.
I couldn't
that
hear
the
you
being
guys.
God itself.
Yeah.
And so I think that's significant. I think it's a really profound idea. Whether that's literal or not, who knows? But it's something, it's a worthwhile contemplating, I would say.
Yeah. And so what I was just saying when I noticed the mic cut out, I don't know if that was, let's see. I couldn't hear you guys. Yeah, I just noticed. I don't know how long that's been going on, but I appreciate the feedback. A little late, my man. A little late. But yeah. So I was just saying that I think it's interesting that Spinoza, from what little I know about Spinoza, but I think it's interesting that Spinoza talked about this, kind of formerly Eastern or already popular in the East idea of, wow, that was a cool second to last kill. Of God is everything, of we are God, of God is among us, not God is a top-down being. I think all of that being expressed in a West-friendly, church-friendly, in a way that attempted not to aggravate the Pope, because that was part of Spinoza's goal, was to still live among Western society in a society that respected the Church. He couldn't be too heretical, and I think that was kind of interesting that he brought this idea from the East to the West, right? That God is among us, and I think that's kind of scary, and it doesn't match how I think about the Church. Because when I think of the Church, I think of this guy in the sky telling us, like, you are this weak, pathetic human being, and you need to be X, Y, and Z. And I know that's a very reductionist approach, and I'm very sorry if that came off as insulting. It was not intended to be insulting. It's just like, it is a top-down approach, right? To some degree, there is someone giving rules to someone else. It's an omniscient, omnipotent power handing down rules to people that are not omniscient, that are not omnipotent, right? That are not only below God, but below angels, below... There's like multiple steps of divinity that are missing there. But for Spinoza to say, no, we are part of the substance that is God, I think is an interesting challenge, and is an interesting alternative, is an interesting take on what existed in Western society.
Yeah, I think you're right. I guess the question would be, is the Church, so has it become more pantheistic over time?
So what does that mean?
Yeah, like, do they stop taking God as literally as they did before in the past, rather than, there's an idea in the Church that's pretty common that we should not shame, that that God is not a God that shames us. Jesus didn't come to the world to shame or condemn us. But whenever we think of the Church, whenever we think of Jesus and thinking, oh, what does Jesus think of it? A lot of feelings of shame just might pop up.
I don't think that's for no reason, right? But the Church as an entity has thrived off of shame in part, right? It's part of, at least, if not thriving on it, it's a public perception that's widespread, and because there are persecutions that occur, just as with every religion, right? There are condemnations, there are rules to follow, and rules that, when broken, lead to consequences. And what are those consequences? Eternal damnation.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary.
It is
and
scary.
That topic, that thing I was mentioning earlier, that I couldn't find the name for, and that Juan, the dude I met at Yu-Gi-Oh, Pascal's wager. So Pascal's wager is the idea that whatever his name was, whatever Pascal said, that if God is true, if religion is right, you better believe it. If you don't, you have eternal damnation waiting for you. And if God is not real, you might as well believe it anyway, because you don't know that. right? So the
Right.
idea is that like you might as well.
Right, and to think that God, this idea that God wants us to freely choose, He wants us to choose to love Him. Then, do we feel threatened by this idea of eternal damnation and hell? And is it contradictory that they say, "Oh, God
Tomato
didn't
Hero
come to shame or condemn
999.
us, but He did preach on
Does
hell."
the idea of a
Right,
divine
and so
ruler feel
I think
safer than
my next question
pantheism?
then, as it relates to
What about
pantheism, is
Zeus?
so pantheism doesn't seem like it would have that because there is no holy book of pantheism.
Right.
There is no. I mean, just generally speaking, there is no set of rules that say you're going to hell if you don't think that everything is God. So
Absolutely.
so why should we believe in pantheism? Evangelize for a second, if you will.
Yeah, I would say that it's more practical.
How so?
I'd say it's more practical to believe in something like pantheism, that God is the universe and the universe is God, or something like that. Because
I can't get up.
I guess what we know about astronomy. Think of how vast the universe is. That if God is infinite, and I can't even comprehend this, the universe. I could just think of like the Milky Way galaxy and the unknown. Not very much like beyond that.
And even then, it's not a true perspective because it's flavored by what our human experience is, which is pound size, not even Earth size. We don't even understand what the Earth size event would be like. It doesn't make any sense to us. So contemplating God in the grander scheme of things is, I think, kind of a nonsensical, non sequitur, just existing in a weird space where we just hope to believe it to be true.
Yeah, I think
Right.
an idea of pantheism is more of a creative approach, kind of solving the problem of what is God.
I like that answer. Yeah, no, it is creative because it's not what is popular in terms of the answers that exist to the universe. Saying everything is God is kind of like, imagine being the first guy that said that. Everyone is like, like, oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, like if you want to, I guess it's like if you want to gain insight, like what are different approaches you can do? Like one of them could be you could pray to God and ask for insight. Like I don't know if you tried that. I've tried that and I have felt nothing profound. Like I don't think I've gained any more insight.
Yeah,
but definitely like maybe going in a walk in nature.
Okay.
I feel like I could gain more insight that way.
Right.
Or if you have a telescope and you're just looking at the stars and you're contemplating the stars, I feel like that's a little more, I guess, far out, and maybe it can take my mind to further places.
Why is that?
I guess just contemplating vastness. If I'm looking at the stars.
But why? So okay, so this brings me to neuroscience because I think this is a
Tomato
neuroscience
Hero
answer, and I don't know if
999.
you're going to answer in a neuroscience way.
Are those Fruit Loops
why
magical?
does vastness make us think of God?
That's a good question.
And it's a question that relates to pantheism.
Yeah, I think personally because that I don't feel that vast. Like I know there's.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, like we can talk about complexity of the brain and how complicated maybe our brains are, and how that can be kind of analogous to that of some sort of connection to the universe or whatnot. And it was there's cliche things you hear that the universe is within us, we are infinite.
Yeah, right.
I don't feel very infinite. I feel pretty fine.
Well, no, specifically what I'm talking about though is that it kind of sounds to me like the part of the brain that deals with vastness is the part of the brain that deals with religiosity. What do you think of that concept?
I think that could be, there's some truth. There could be some truth to that.
It's the same kind of thing that, like, if someone is on acid and they're like, oh my god, the universe is everything, infinite, da-da-da, like acid type things to say, like, that's also a religious type thing to say. Mm-hmm. That's also a walking in nature type thing to say. There's a reason these things have vague associations with each other, probably because they deal with the same neurological originators. Absolutely. Right? There's some part of the brain that deals with awe.
Absolutely, I think there's a lot. I think there's insight to that. I think there's. I mean, I clearly don't know everything. So I kind of, to some degree, believe in...
Well, you didn't say that when I invited you on this show, so...
Yeah. But... So, I do believe in some sort of unknown. Okay. Some sort of mystery. And I guess that can be equated as, what we're talking about, vastness, or this type of awe. So is that my God part of the brain kind of being activated?
I mean, my argument, my initial presumption would be yes. I mean, but I'm a hardcore atheist. You know, like I think I know things that are. I think I know that there is no truth to be found here. But I'm
Yeah.
probably just as likely to be wrong as I am to be right. I mean, who am I to be so arrogant as to
Tomato
say
Hero
that, right?
999.
I mean, it's not
Very cool
knowable
conversation,
in
guys.
any
Winking
sense of the
face with
word.
tongue.
It's just a guess that I'm making very strongly, just like Christians do the same thing, and
Yeah.
Muslims do the same thing, and arguably Spinozists probably do the same
I
thing.
honestly believe, in my personal opinion, that there is something about kind of the culture, at least in my experience, that we need to be convicted.
Oh, hey, we have questions. Does the idea of a divine ruler feel safer than pantheism? What about Zeus? Are those Fruit Loops magical? Very cool conversation, guys. The Fruit Loops are not magical. Sorry. Okay, but what about the divine ruler? Does it feel safer than pantheism? So my immediate answer is yes, because there's rules and a guidebook to follow, and like if you follow them, you're good. You go to heaven, right? It's easy.
Yeah.
It's an algorithm. As long as you pass the algorithm, if you follow the rules, you're good. You're safe.
Yeah.
I don't think the universe is talking to people in ways that feel objective. I think that's more subjective, right?
Yeah.
If you go out into the woods and you eat some strange mushrooms and you talk to God, that's an experience that lives inside of you, unlike the Bible, which lives outside of you. I think Spinozaists and people like him are having a much more independent view of God.
Absolutely.
I think that's a big part of pantheism.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think there's a little more thinking for yourself being done.
Right, right.
And this mode of pantheism than it is with Christianity, which has been more like, I'm a preacher, I'm dictating kind of what you believe. You know, and,
yes. So we were talking about this earlier today.
Maybe
I think this
Bible
is a very big part of this discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. Where were we at? What?
Well, so no, I mean, this is I think something that should be furthered, right? That this is not only distinctive in and of itself, but this is distinctive just in it not being organized religion. And it not being organized religion gives it a lot of traits that are unfamiliar to a lot of people in terms of discussing religion. So it gives it independence, and normally people ascribe independence to spirituality,
Tomato
but not
Hero
to theology.
999.
But this is
Spirits that live in
spirituality
nature have
with
rules
a conscience. This is spirituality with independence, and so that is fundamentally interesting, I think, about Spinozism or about pantheism in general. This is theology, done differently.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think that's a really interesting spin you can kind of put on it. It's sort of like religion with a twist or something like that.
Right, right. It's religion. It's religion it's a DIY religion almost, but it still is this. It's one thing, right? It is everything is God. It is a set idea with a definition. Okay, so at the same time, we're talking about how it's like the world, the universe, and it's like your own spin on things. But does that mean that there's no objectivity to be found?
Great question.
Right, like is there a way to do pantheism that's right and a way to do pantheism that's wrong?
I would argue yes.
Spirits that live in nature have rules too. Okay, so what does that mean though? I know there's like this sort of Japanese take on the kami or whatever they're called, the little nature spirits, and they have sort of perhaps cultural rules. I would argue those aren't real rules, but they're not objective to the creatures. They're made by people, and I think that's what it comes down to. I think all of this stuff is made by people, and I think that's what makes pantheism special. Is that it's made by people, but it's largely generally made by yourself, not by someone else.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just got you in a fight, so good luck.
Tomato Hero 999.
Good luck.
Pantheism can include ubiquitous spirit and spirits.
Someone destroy the tank. You don't need the anti-tank. Oh, maybe you do. There's another tank. Pantheism can include ubiquitous spirits and spirits. Yeah, I mean everything is right. If everything is God, everything is God, right? Like you're God, I'm God.
Yeah.
You're God. You're God.
Like, are there some sort of rules that kind of govern the Earth,
or
not?
I mean, natural rules.
Natural rules.
So then, if you're a scientist and pantheistic, can you be spiritual, religious, and pure and truly scientific? Can you be pantheistic? Can you truly be a hardcore scientist and believe that everything is God? What does your intuition say?
I think it could sort of end up interfering with your scientific approach.
How so?
If you really believe that. I think you have to kind of divorce your scientific approach to what your personal beliefs would be. And you have to kind of honor that the own science, like, has its own ethical code. Having its own ethical code.
You're going the wrong way. You're going into the storm. You're going into death. Yeah, let's avoid death. And so I am inclined to agree, and I think that would be my typical take on it, but I feel like pantheism is a little bit different. There's no, and we were talking about moral codes earlier, prescribed moral codes. I don't think pantheism has one. And so because of that, I think it makes it different in the sense that I think you can do other ethical work in terms of following ethical principles in other areas
have to get along with them
not
and
have
show
to worry
respect.
about whether you have to, as you say, divorce yourself from this code of ethics, because there is no code of ethics there. It's just the universe. I don't think inherently the universe has a code of ethics. I think ethics, morality are inherently human. They're a life-derived concept. Without life, rocks have absolutely no need for ethics. It doesn't even make sense in the context of rocks. I mean, ethics is about decision-making. There is someone right behind you. That is not the right weapon for the job. Ha ha ha! Ice Fork 43. Go get his shit. Okay. Go get his weapons. Oh, you're getting killed? It is death. The death has become you. You are not destroyer of worlds. You're dead. You're dead. This is it. You know how to build?
No.
You're done. 14th place. What does it feel like making it to 14th?
It's not bad. Oh, no.
And you have to get along with them and show respect. Are you talking about the world around you or the scientists around you? I'm feeling it's the former rather than the latter. I don't know. I just think it's an interesting thing. So because it's the kind of religion that's not really religious. It's the kind of religion that doesn't have a moral code, and it's not the only one. I mean, and there are religions with moral codes that don't interfere with science and other moral studies, right? So, like, Confucianism isn't really a theological religion in the sense it's kind of an ethical practice, right? And I don't think Confucians have any issues being scientists, for instance. And I think it's the same kind of thought process that leads me to say that I think pantheism is the same way. In that, if you're a pantheist, if you think everything is God, like that's not going to make you have an issue with stem cell research.
Right.
What it might actually do, though, is might make you have an issue with, for example, meat-related research. You know, like if you're studying the best way to organize and herd cattle for mass consumption in a way that like promotes death. Maybe a pantheist would be a bad researcher in that area. What do you think of that? Do you think that that's a relevant ethical issue in that sense?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Like, if you're a part of a formal religion and you're following it as you're supposed to, like following the holy book, would that make you more moral of a person than someone who's maybe believes in this kind of Spinoza's God or pantheism or something?
Well, so but more moral is an entirely made up idea. It's an entirely made up term. It's the whole concept is like, what is morality, right? Like it's made up. I mean, I think it's distinctly made up. And oh my God!
Well, I think there's something to be said about kind of the golden rule that you've probably heard before. I saw this poster one time and it was actually in North Carolina at the airport in a prayer room, okay. And they had 12 different religions, but they all had the same quote that was in every book. It said basically do unto others as you would want to do on yourself, or do not harm others because wouldn't want others to harm you, or something of that nature.
Right.
So it's hard for me to believe. That's in every holy book. It's hard for me to believe, and you could be right. I mean, religion is a human thing. I don't think animals have religion, trees have religions, or anything like that.
But you know what I think animals might have, though, is awe. Maybe intelligent enough animals might have awe. Because I think awe is an evolutionary... There's an evolutionary reason for awe. And, I believe probably that there's an evolutionary reason for religion. That said, that's not what we're talking about, but I do think that those animals have at least some aspects of what I would argue are the same neurological condition.
And I agree with that. I think I've seen a dog, I believe, in a state of awe before. And or surprised. And I think there's something about being in a state of awe and witnessing something of the unknown. It kind of reminds me of sort of like when natives they saw airplanes, or not. What am I saying? When people who have never seen airplanes,
999.
Spirit
energy equals mana equals magical substance in everything equals, but pantheism can get personal.
The Sentinelese people. Have you heard of the Sentinelese people? It's one of the few last uncontacted tribes in the Indian Ocean. It's a known uncontacted tribe that has not. I mean, they've had minor interactions with the British.
Tomato Hero 999.
And the British, as a general people, oh man, now I'm just broad. Okay.
Yeah,
you know what I meant.
I think we can get lost in awe, and it can startle us. It's something striking.
Thank you for changing the subject.
I think that awe could be a stepping stone to discovery, and I think that can be scientific. And I think in pantheism we say the universe is awesome and huge and magnificent, and so is God, supposedly. That if we equate those things or make them similar or the same thing, then I think it can lead us to better discovery of what the universe is. What is God? What is truth? What is the unknown? What we don't know.
Yeah. Well, so let's try to figure that out in the context of pantheism. What is the unknown in the context of pantheism? Because if you're saying the unknown is God, but by definition I don't know what it is, what does that mean?
Yeah, and I don't know what Spinoza would say about that, but I would say that it's a continual quest of discovery. And it's saying that if God is in the universe, or God is the universe, then we have our entire lives to discover the universe more, to understand a little better. And, and by doing that, we can become a little bit more enlightened. We can be gain a little bit more wisdom. Understand our realities a little better. What is life? What is it? What is death? Why do some people live longer than others? Does that even make it a more meaningful life? And those kind of questions, and maybe how you would want to live your life. How would you want to approach your attitudes towards life? Kind of what our experience is. So I think it can help create meaning, and I think that meaning can lead to positive things. That I think is what religion largely is intended for. I think whenever we deal with the unknown, a lot of myths, stories, legends, they sort of help us create meaning of something that is very abstract, something's very unknown to us that we can't make sense of.
I think that's kind of a big part of what religion is, though, is providing that meaning in places where it doesn't exist.
Right.
And people are meaning finders, right? There's pareidolia. I don't know if you've heard of that sort of kind of neurological, psychological phenomenon where people see faces in things. You go to the beach, you look at the clouds, and it's oh, there's faces in the clouds. We were looking at those trees, and you said they look like dogs. No, they don't. They look like trees.
All thumbs up the smiling face with sunglasses. Awesome.
Meaning in
make connections.
We make connections. We find patterns. Yeah, that's a very human phenomenon.
I read this. I had a professor once, and he presented this paper to a group we were in, and there was this idea of pseudo profound bullshit. I just really loved it. It won a award for cheekiest article or something like that. But it was this idea that we can maybe make artificial connections that are not there. And I think it's something that's sort of it can deal with imaginary thinking, or highly creative people might be more prone to this. And people that could have more schizoaffective disorder, highly creative people, I think this is something, in my opinion, that could be like psychosis or something like that.
Okay.
Like
Too much,
too
too
many
much
drugs,
godliness leads
too
to
much
too much
LSD.
cleanliness.
You have pseudo profound insights.
Sure,
You make
sure,
connections.
sure,
Some of them could be seemingly true, but we don't really flesh them out or discern or take time to really ponder these things or test them. And we can make far out conclusions and be convicted on them. And I think that's a reason for delusions.
Yeah. You think Spinoza was delusional?
I think we're all delusional.
How so? How so?
I think we all. I think I don't want to say we're all delusional, but I think we all might have some ideas that aren't necessarily.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. What is my reality? What are the constructs of my own life and my own reality? I do things. I do have probably ways of thinking that
Sure.
That are created. That are maybe constructs just to make this reality seem easier. Or
like what?
Hard to say. In like psychology class one time, they were saying that whenever we have dissonance or some sort of cognitive dissonance or something that doesn't equate, that doesn't quite make sense, there's different mechanisms that our brain can kind of cope with that, and one of them could be an initial denial of kind of what you believe, because we sort of separate ourselves from it. And this is supposedly a healthy thing our brain does, and we end up rationalizing to make sense of what is going on. And I think I think that's a very common human thing.
Right.
Oh, is that as can it lead you to delusion? Probably not, because I don't know. It could, depending on what the belief is. I mean, I'm not going to say it can't.
Okay.
But I can't think of a good example. Yeah, that's I guess my thought on that. My take on that.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is interesting, thinking about why there might or might not be all these alternate possible ways of viewing the universe in this holy way. And I think ultimately to kind of maybe we can get towards the end here and try to wrap things up. What's the meaning of the whole conversation? Why does this matter? Why does religion matter? Why does having a perspective on these things matter? I mean, really, because I think there are plenty of people out there that look at this whole conversation, and like I said earlier, what's the draw? It's your upbringing. People don't care about these things unless they were raised to care about them. So if you don't have a reason, let's give people a reason. Why should people care about Spinoza? Why should people care about God? Why should people care about? Is there something?
I think this is really interesting. Because I consider myself a pretty spiritual person. When I talk to some of my friends about my spiritual, or just some random thoughts I have, they keep calling me a nihilist. And,
and I don't think that's accurate. There's something I know about you, but okay.
Yeah, but they sound like that sounds like an nihilism. That sounds like a nihilism. I'm like, no, I believe in there's purpose. I believe in true purpose in things. Like, I believe life has purpose.
Yeah,
I guess maybe I'm just optimistic, but I don't consider myself a nihilist. But I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the more like hard logic and truth we find, sometimes like I don't know if it's the way our mind shapes it or when my mind can shape things sometimes, but I think there's like more of a pessimism there. There's like a more of a pessimism, like realism and pessimism are a little more, like brother and sister or something like that. That optimism is too airy fairy. That believing in God or Jesus. Oh, there is hope. Maybe I will be saved. Right, or maybe there is some sort of afterlife in some sort of godly, ethereal universe realm or whatever. That it's too hopeful, and even I mean, are lives meaningless? Like I don't know. I really like. I guess my sell on Spinoza or why you should get interested in this kind of idea is that you can think for yourself. You don't have to ascribe to normal notions of religion.
I think that's a really big part of the conversation what we were talking about earlier in that area. Yeah, no, I mean this is DIY religion. This is like the universe is listening to you. The universe is your God. The very and it's very interactive.
I was going to say we have a sense to explore. We can interact. We don't have to sit and listen and say, "Oh, this is the wisdom." No,
right, you go to church and someone tells you what to think and what God is going to say about you when you die. Like, no, you tell yourself what God is going to say about you when you die because it's your own God and it's there around you. I think that's kind of powerful.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that speaks volumes to a lot of people that don't even know that yet. Like they don't know what this is. They don't know about Spinozism or whatnot. But maybe they should, because I think they might be fans. They might dig it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think Spinoza would have fans if he'd only had better marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and my marketing spiel would say Einstein believed in Spinoza's God, and I'm like, he was a pretty smart dude. Not that he knew everything, but he was a genius. And I'm like, I want to investigate that. Like, what did he find in Spinoza's God that was so appealing?
Right. I mean, but you can be smart and be dumb.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is certainly true. This game has been very uneventful here. I've been kind of just wandering. It's a bit unfortunate. Also, the lag has been really bad, so very apologetic about that. I'm gonna hand this to you as soon as I get this med kit off, and you're gonna do a great job. You're gonna wrap things up. You have a gold weapon, so if you die, just know that you died carrying great power, and it's pathetic. With that, all the power to you. Yeah, you're about to get into a fight, so. Right behind. Congratulations. Beautiful. Yeah. Good stuff. So do you think Spinoza would think, just by definition, that Fortnite is God?
No. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
I think he'd be open to exploring that idea.
So do you think that, like, in a sense, worshipping Fortnite is something that you have to do as a Spinozist?
What do you think on that?
I think that right now we're essentially in church.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, I mean, why not? So, okay, so that arrow, the orange, yeah, that means that way there's something happening. Noise, activity. Yeah. I don't know. I think the whole idea of there not being, so I said the phrase top down.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting to have a non-top down religion in this Western ideology, because it's not a common perspective. The only people that do it are people of East. The only religions that do it are religions of traditionally of the East, right? There's this kind of Buddhism, Confucianism, Shintoism. There's others, but like those are like animism, maybe not necessarily East, maybe some kind of sense African and other traditionalist religions, if you want to use that term. But it's square to read them.
Tomato
the West,
Hero
quote unquote, and the
999.
Middle East, right? Christianity,
Sun
Islam,
with face seedling
Judaism.
clapping hands, green heart, happy
these are
Earth Day
religions
for
that
leaf
tell you
clover,
what to
grinning
do,
face with
right?
big
And I
eyes.
think that's a large part of the issue that people have with it. You're going the wrong way. You're gonna want to turn. Yeah, do you see that white line on the mini map? Yeah, that's it. So it's like people follow rules, and I think that's a lot of the reason people have these issues with the Happy Earth Day. Is that people don't like being told what to do. People don't like being in the wrong. People don't like being of a minority class that a specific religion has said you are bad, right? Or however you want to interpret it. But even that potential for being wrong, for being among the wrong, is not a good feeling. No one wants to be discriminated against or minoritized or whatever, and pantheism doesn't really seem to have a risk of that, because it's pantheism, right?
Yeah, well said, Oliver.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, if it's everything, you're good.
Yeah.
Like, you are your own god, at least in part. And I think that's powerful. It's like, there's something neat about that as a non-religious person. I think that's kind of cool. Like, that's